Happy holidays! I've got a gift for you. Buy 4 tarot readings or coaching session gift codes in any combination and you'll receive 2 additional gift codes too. So use all 6 codes for yourself or share them with friends and family as holiday gifts, stocking stuffers, or maybe even birthday presents. These don't expire, so you can feel free to use them and share them throughout the year. Merry Christmas, and thank you so much for being my friends. Hi there, Sagittarius. This is your weekly reading for the week of December 28th through January 3rd. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I hope everything is going your way. It's going to be a great year. I'm already very excited, and I'm sure you're feeling that way too. Got to be very hopeful at the beginning of any year, whether it's the Julian calendar, Chinese, or whether it's the astrological new year. You got to be filled with hope to make sure that you take that energy with you on the eve of the new year especially, and be happy at that moment. Don't be sad going into the new year. And then don't do what I did once. Don't kiss somebody or let them kiss you that you don't wish to spend any time with. Happened to me, long story. I'll tell you about it sometime. Monday, the card you've drawn is the 3 of Cups. This is a card that indicates that you're feeling celebratory, that your mood is positive, that you're feeling somewhat part of the tribe or the group, and even if your family is at a distance, you feel a sense of connection, and maybe there really is something that you're celebrating at this time. It could be anything from a new engagement in the family, a pregnancy, something exciting like this. This could even be getting really good news about some part of your life, or even having that hope and feeling expectant that something wonderful is coming for you. It's a wonderful way. Hold that thought. Just hold it all the way into the new year. Hold it past midnight, whatever time zone is yours. On Tuesday, the card you've drawn is the Page of Swords, and in reverse, this card indicates that you may be feeling that you're not sure if your communications are being interpreted correctly, and it could be that you feel like you're speaking English and you're being heard as if you were speaking Chinese. So it might be a good time to think about the way you communicate. And then, of course, because we're in Mercury retrograde's pre-shadow and it's intensified at this time, and considering that it will take one step into Aquarius and then go practically almost immediately within a few days, it will go right back into Capricorn, where it is sitting right now in your solar second house of your income, your property, your possessions, and such. You know, whatever you think is probably not, and whatever you think isn't probably is. So, you know, I wouldn't go betting on any horses at this time, if you know what I mean, and just make sure that if you are feeling impulsive, that you resist this temptation, because even now you could end up at a store and think that some membership or something is great. They hand you the contract and you're like, yeah, I know better, but what could the harm be? And then you figure out that you just signed your life away for the next 3 years and that there's no way to get out other than paying an early termination fee. Something such as this. This is also the day that the sun in Capricorn, your solar second house, sextiles Neptune in Pisces, your solar fourth house of home, family, your foundation, and it's a very private house, so maybe you're finding a way to correct some of these feelings that you have about your past and even about your current situation in the sense of home and house and family and what that means to you. Sextile is always very good energy that gives us an opportunity to do something or to correct something. And of course, considering the house as being the first here, or excuse me, the solar second and your solar fourth, there is a connection that is tied to the home. And maybe there are those of you working out of your home or hoping to. This is not the time to start that if you haven't done this already, of course. At the earliest, don't implement anything until after the end of January, no sooner than the 25th. In fact, I would stay away from the 25th. I would call it the 31st. And my favorite time for you, of course, would be right around Valentine's Day. So about the 14th of February would be much, much better. Considering that this emphasis is here, it could be that you decide there's an extra room in your house to rent out. And again, I would be very careful with all of that because regardless whether that person is very well known to you or not, there could be some back and forth type shenanigans where you think it's agreed and it isn't, and vice versa. I would just consider that this is a good time to think, rethink, and if you do work out of your home, then it is time to rethink your strategy. And you'll have plenty of time to do this because Mercury will begin its official retrograde phase in Aquarius. This is your solar third house of communication. So especially for those of you involved, anything that has to do with the communications of the third house, whether that is you are a writer, a speaker, a programmer, a coder, you get it if what you do for a living is in the communication industry, then it will actually go retrograde right back into Capricorn, your solar second house of that income and of those possessions and resources. So, we're going to have a start-stop that will make Mercury will retrace its steps right back over it was pre-shadow than where it was when it actually went retrograde, and then of course when it goes back to where it belongs. So there's plenty of time. There is no hurry. In fact, don't. The Page of Swords in reverse is expressing a kind of problem with some communications, and we know that communications are also related to contracts and negotiations, whether verbal and spoken or written and on a piece of paper, a contract. And even at times, the real trick is to locate where the potential vulnerabilities are in implied or otherwise expressed contractual agreements. I even have to throw in there that I get the idea that even a disagreement is ruled by this house, and especially when, Mercury is about 3 times closer to the earth than usual, then of course we've got more of an emphasis here. And especially because you've got the sun in Capricorn, and when that luminary is in that house for you, your second house, and considering that you have several other objects in your solar second house, we've got Pallas, we've got Mercury, we've got Chiron, Chariklo, we have the sun, we have Vertex, we have Vulcanus, we have Pluto. So we have so much emphasis here that you really do need to be careful, considering that you have Saturn in your solar first house and that we have emphasis there, including the Centaur Phallus, and Venus is there at this time. But we have to remember to do everything by the book, especially there with Vulcanus in your second house. We have to be careful that the unexpected doesn't necessarily jump up and hit us in the face, so just be safe and do things in a way that is conservative, by the book, by the rules, and you will see that the results will be wonderful, much more appropriate for what you need rather than creating a mountain of correction that you'll spend the first 3 months of the year doing. Mercury here in Capricorn, that solar second house, will square Mars in Libra, your solar 11th house of friends and group associations, your associates, the people that you consider friends, and even the money you make from your chosen career or your chosen path. The issue here is so often where we forget how many types of people, when we're talking about people that can show up in that house. And the trick is, of course, knowing your personal situation and seeing it clearly, not seeing it for what you'd like it to be. But this house also rules long-term goals and dreams, your hopes, your wishes, the people, not only your social sector, but those people in even your internet networking circles, communications, friends. Of course, this is where you'd find people who own their own businesses, of course, because that's represented by the solar opposite house, the fifth house for you being Aries. And so here's where you could also have what your expectations are. A square to Mars and Libra in your 11th house of this nature with this current environment is again asking you to slow down and to see things without the rose-colored glasses. Study everything from a vantage point. I like to think that the 9th house would be where you should be looking from. And if you think of it this way, the divine, if you will, if the powers that be on the celestial level will notice that you're trying to look at it from every point and asking for their guidance, they will help you understand who the right people are and who are the wrong people for you. Because this is really a time where somebody could be trying to sell you on something that seems fantastic and it isn't. I mean, quite honestly, I'd look at this and say, yeah, well, if an opportunity is good for you, it'll be there after Mercury's out of shadow mid-February. And it's not impossible to consider it this way. My son was asking me about a job. He was offered by an acquaintance a way to get into a job that they would assist with, or, maybe grease those wheels. And it would pay him a lot more money, like $5 an hour more. For the second time, he's asked me this during the same phase. And I was like, whoa, no, and he was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And he was so sick of the astrology at the time, but he trusts me, and I'm his mother, of course, and he's an air sign, an air sun sign. So the last thing anybody with any air ascendant or sun or even moon, I would be saying, look at those houses and see where they're at. You've got a lot of grounding energy because we're going to have so much emphasis on earth houses this year. And we'll get into that in the annual readings. But remember what I'm telling you, not everything that sparkles is a diamond, and not everything that shines is gold. And as well-intended as people are and as excited as you can get, Sagittarius, this is the time to say, yeah, pretty much no. If this is still available there mid-February, then I'll consider it. I'll give you a call. And own your power. Own your right to make a decision. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Mars is in this same house so that it could make people very aggressive at even trying to include you or to sell you something in the group of people here, or even relative to the money that you make being offered some kind of dividend. Like, if you just invest in this, and we won't say the word pyramid scheme, and you agree to this, we won't say multi-level marketing. We won't even remind you that you have to buy inventory or you don't get any discount. So what's the whole point? So just think of it that way. We've also got the Black Moon Lilith there. We've got Haumea and Maki Maki. There is no rush. Absolutely no rush. So just keep that in mind. On Wednesday, we've got the Six of Cups in reverse. And There could be some issue connected with some connection from the past, or you were hoping that it would turn out one way and it doesn't. And this could be, just a childhood situation that seems to repeat itself, like the nightmare of the monster under the bed that you haven't been able to get under control since you were 4. And in most cases, I think that you can see how even thinking under such a heavily influential Mercury, you could be thinking about somebody from the past, maybe even associated with that 11th house where they would probably be, not necessarily always the 12th or the 8th. And so this is where I think you should consider that Venus in Sagittarius now. It was just off of a sextile, or coming off at this point of being a Scorpio in not a sextile, in a semi-square to Pluto and Capricorn. Every time you hear Capricorn, especially those of you who are a Sagittarius ascendant, and then less so Sun, and even less so for Moon matters. But I want you to just perk up your ears and go, what? Okay, like resources, what about them? So this semi-square to Pluto and Capricorn from Venus and Scorpio, your solar 12th house, is saying that yes, this card makes sense, that there is some situation, some person from the past. This could even be a karmic situation that is never going to feel 100% resolved. So this is where it becomes practical, earth energy, to allow this to be at peace. Allow yourself to be at peace with it. We can't always correct issues and even shake hands in past relationships or even familial relationships. So regardless of whether it's romantic or what, it almost doesn't matter. And I don't want you to think that I'm being flippant about this. I'm being very honest that, trust me, I'm a Scorpio sun and Virgo rising. I can't let go. I have to analyze it down to its simplest form, down to a basic factor. And it doesn't always work out. And, imagine my Pisces moon is my 7th house. So, it's not the easiest thing for me. So what I'm proposing here for you to consider is that even those of us who have it more difficult, and that, people think that I've got answers. Yeah. And I don't have answers for myself. I'm probably better at giving you guys answers. So just keeping it in mind that if you do get these feelings, I just want you to think of it in terms of maybe a meditation that you can create for yourself, or do some meditating before you go to sleep, so that maybe you can ask others in the more subtle realms to give you some resolution in your dream state, which is the best place to get it. We don't tend to analyze anything there while we're dreaming it per se. We analyze it once we're awake, but then the message is almost stuck. Like when you need to say something to somebody, but you don't want them to argue with you, what do? You email them. And in the good old days, we used to handwrite letters and mail them to each other, so that there could be no argument before we could get our point across to whatever end. And I don't know, do any of you remember what mailboxes look like? Have you ever tried to fish something out from the mailbox that went down? That is freaking impossible. Although I used to tell people when we were kids, before sending that Dear John letter or anything like it, to tie a ribbon, a string, fishing line or something to the letter and go ahead and put it in that box, and then think about it for a few minutes, and you'll find yourself wanting to fish that damn thing out, unless you're somewhat fatalistic like me, and I'd just say, screw it, put it in there, make it go. So consider that you need to let these things go. And even if you can't resolve to let it go, let it rest. Just let it rest. Maybe put it in a pending basket in your mental desk and say that perhaps some information will come later. But remember that once you put it in the pending basket, doesn't mean that you can take it back out for no reason, just to, screw around with it. You only take it out when you have more information to see if you can get any closer to a full resolution or peace. Venus in Scorpio also at that point is what is sending the signal to you that there are plenty of things that can heal. Juno is there as well. There are plenty of things that can heal, and all you have to do is resolve to getting it done, even if you know it's hard for you to do. Just say, well, I can't fix what's broken in the past, but I certainly can be glad that I will have plenty of opportunities to make a full resolution with this. And Juno in the 12th house is really telling you to make peace with all of it, for better, for worse, for good, for bad. The difference between it all really comes down to Juno's telling you that you will lose your freedom here. If you don't let it go, you can choose to hang on to it, right? I'm only here to give you advice because I feel like it and you clicked something and found me, but this is where you have to make that ultimate decision. But listen to what Juno is telling you. Juno is saying that if you can just at least make a commitment to let this go, even at some yet to be determined time in the future, but you will not dick around with it anymore until you get to that point, that you will be just fine. That's all, Juno is asking you to make that commitment to yourself. Venus, of course, at this point enters Sagittarius. And so, hopefully by this time you have made those commitments to whatever end, and that will be good enough. Now, on Thursday, we have the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. And this is a card that indicates that there is some sense of restlessness. You're not at peace in your home environment, or that your financial stability is not what you want it to be. And if that's the case, make peace with that as well. We can't create resolutions or improve anything. We're in the middle of worrying. If you put your energy, and I'm going to speak to you, coming at you from a person who also cannot do this very well. I just struggle with it every damn day of my life. But let's just say that the situation isn't what you prefer. It isn't as secure as you'd like it to be, or you're not at peace and you've got some kind of maybe even wanderlust and you're thinking, gosh, here it comes again. I felt this, which actually could be true for you in 1985. Think back. If you're old enough, what were you doing in 85? I remember in 1985, I was so restless and so ill at ease that even in print work that I was doing, one of these photographs I hate. And to this day, I'm getting past the hate, but I look at it and I think that is one sad, lost, lonely, tortured little girl. And that's not what that photo shoot was supposed to be about. Not at all. It was kind of one of these free-for-alls. I just had to walk around in some shrubbery and bush, in Palos Verdes, and, almost fell off a cliff at one point. But what I'm trying to say is if I can remember that, you probably can too. Think of the way you felt. Take a Polaroid snapshot of it, because you'd be old enough to remember what a Polaroid is, the real Polaroids. So, consider that if you're feeling that restlessness, it's exactly what was going on at that time. Some of you will be having not just a Saturn transit in your solar first house, but you could be having a Saturn visiting any other part. We'd have to look at you for degrees. So those of you who could remember in 1985 that you felt restless, ill at ease, or some other sensation, whatever these even body sensations were, think about it, because that could be connected to this Nine of Pentacles moment. Venus in Sagittarius is in sesquisquare. I like that word. I like to say it a few different ways. Every day I learn to collect another word for it. Sesquisquare, sesquiquadrate. What else is it? It's also a sesquiquadrature. And I still lisp a little bit, so it's one of those things that no amount of practicing she sells seashells could get that out of my mouth. But this is not a harmonious aspect. This Venus is in your solar first house for purpose of this discussion. And the sesquiquadrate to Uranus in Aries is to your solar fifth house. So this could relate to your children, the children in your house. This could relate to your creativity, the business you own. This could relate to your siblings and even neighbors and cousins. But primarily this would be an aspect that is speaking to an irritation and maybe aggravation, very similar to the semi-square. So Venus is trying to help you see things better, see them in a more positive light, but then I have to warn you. Let me just give you a hypothetical. Your daughter and her boyfriend, father of her child, can't really afford to live where they do because they have not been prudent about their spending. And young people, we've all done it, right? I've made so many mistakes. I would love to give you a list of them. I'm sure we could toilet paper the world like 40 freaking times. I'm just so good at screwing up. So don't feel bad. If you or someone close to you is a screw up, I win. I can screw up better than anybody. So let me just continue with that hypothetical that they can't basically afford to live in their place. They're going to lose everything. Cars will be repossessed, that kind of thing. And you say, well, yes, you can. Of course, my dear, all of y'all can move into my tiny bungalow home. And it seemed like a good idea at the time. And then maybe it's already happened. And now you're like, oh my God, my husband's irritated because he can't walk around in boxer shorts and scratch. I have to panic thinking that somebody's... Boy, does anybody have pubic hair anymore? Is that the weirdest thing I've ever said to you? I am so sorry if I'm offensive. I'm Cuban. That explains a lot, or it should. I don't think anybody has body hair anymore. I'm like one of those hairless creatures that wasn't born with anyway, just really not much. Like I used to call it the joke and say 7 hairs on one leg. If you can find them, we'd have to dye them black to see where anyway, I'm so sorry. That just flew into my head because I was thinking about some poor husband there with, never mind. So, and now you're starting to freak out about all of these people in the house. Maybe some of you will smell cannabis wafting up from the basement or going, oh my God, this is not working out. So I can tell you that there is an exit with this. There is a way to handle it. Whatever situation that you put rose-colored glasses on or felt the need to be Mother Teresa to assist with in whatever way this relates to your 5th house babies, because even your business, your creative projects would be your babies. Whatever it is that's going on, action is what will resolve this conflict. So maybe it will be time to help them get out on their own. You don't have to hurt feelings. You just have to say, this is not healthy for you. This is not healthy the way it is. And they say, what, are you kicking me out? You don't love me? No, I love you. I just want to teach you how to fly before you fall out of the nest and hit your head and break it open. So maybe it's time to get some money together. And the example of putting these kids on a savings plan and or get them whatever help they need so that they can get back on their own. Now, of course, if children are going to be in danger, there really is almost very little, that we could do about this other than wait for one of our kids to ask us for advice or, the same as it relates to anybody else. But just be careful because there's a restlessness here that is very quite obviously matching up with this sesquiquadrature. And so there's something going on with that 1st house and the 5th house. And remember, the sesquiquadrate, whenever you hear that, is not easy. The energies do not flow harmoniously for you students of astrology. So on Friday, we've got the devil in reverse. And this is where we want to make sure that we are not falling prey to past patterns and behaviors where the easy way out is confused with the path of least resistance. Let's see if we can divide that up and make it look like it makes sense. The path of least resistance will never be the road to hell that's paved with good intentions. The path of least resistance is more of a natural flow of energies, a natural flow of the vibe, going with the flow, if you will. But I like to give my clients the idea that you are supposed to go with the flow. We all are. And we should all, in essence, flow harmoniously. And if you're going with the flow and doing what you need to do and handling your responsibilities and you're taking the scenic route, which most Sagittarians do, and you see that there's a damn Niagara Falls and you're going, oh, I think you better take out your paddle, because remember, if you're one of my clients, I tell you, you've got one paddle You got to hold on to it. You know, you're traveling light, going with the flow, but don't be stupid, because if you see a freaking precipice and it's just death and destruction all the way down, you know, then you need to push off and find a better flow. So in this case, the devil is saying, don't go near him. You don't have to go play over there. He doesn't want you over in his area anyway. He wants to hang out with his Playboy devil hellish bunnies. You know, he's got other things to do. He really doesn't want you around there. You're too good for that. So find a way to get around this. This is when Mercury moves into Aquarius, and Aquarius is your solar third house of communications. Here we are, super intense on that pre-retrograde shadow intensity, but no aspect. So God be with you all. We don't have to play with the devil. I mean, we used to do when you were kids, you remember, say, oh devil, come out and fight with me. Well, that's what I'm thinking. He doesn't want to play with you either. He resents the fact that we make fun of him. I'm so sorry, Satan. On Saturday, we have the Knight of Wands in reverse, and this is, of course, fire sign energy. And this could be Aries, Leo, Sagittarius like you, and it could just represent the fire sign activities and actions, which are all action oriented, especially if they're related to Aries. And so this would be the energy of trying to start something, trying to propose something, something being proposed to you and it's not what you want, or you're trying to get something going in the realm of communication and it's not happening. And I would be saying, you know, that this is a good thing. This is where my dad would say, solavaya. We really don't want it anyway, so if it's not meant for us, make it go away. There's no aspects here other than keeping our eyes on the pre-retrograde shadow intensified, so, you know, it just is what it is. I would just sit there making popcorn balls. You know, I've always wanted to learn how to make popcorn balls. I love those so much, especially when they're pastel colored and they're just so delicious. Two of Pentacles here for Sunday. And this is good. It's in its upright. I think that all you do need is to get into the flow. Regardless of whether the ships are about to capsize behind you, as long as they're not your ships. But I like to draw attention to certain symbols in these cards, and I want you to look very carefully. I think we've talked about this one before. Do you see how this individual is like a Jedi using the Force? Oh, I love Star Wars. And these pentacles are balancing themselves perfectly without any effort. Now, there's kind of a catch-22 here. If we look at the ocean, the sun could be rising, it could be setting. The ships look like they could be having a lot of fun. We see that one of them could actually go under. And the most important part is to see that while this dude or girl, whatever, you know, and with all the gender flavors, who the hell knows? Look at the sand behind where he's dancing. That's the ocean bed. So to me, I'm looking at this going, oh crap, the tide's coming in. And he's dancing and paying attention to these two lovely coins. So the path of least resistance is again a message here in this card for you. Mars enters Scorpio, your solar 12th house again of the past, which is also where we find a lot of peace and comfort, at least in withdrawing from the real world to sleep and to dream, perchance to dream. And so the message is one of caution as well. Even though path of least resistance is perfect, it doesn't mean that you should get so caught up in the damn flow that you don't notice that the tide is coming in. It's going to knock you on your ass and you're going to hit that ground and eat sand. It's better than packing sand. So my suggestion for you is this. When Mars enters Scorpio, that solar 12th house, I would say relax about it and go ahead, perchance, to dream. And also remember that while you have to go with the flow and find it and stay in it and not commit to anything at this time that is totally unnecessary because it's not a good idea. If any situation offering job, relationship, if anything is good for you, it will still be there in the middle of February. The universe in its infinite wisdom knows what we need and what we don't need. We're the ones that get very stuck tenaciously. If you're a crab, you know, a Cancer rising, and or if you're a Scorpio rising, let me tell you something. crabs can do it with their little claws. Scorpio, we're just going to like stab the crap out of you, and you're going to do what we say, and we're going to hold you hostage. So you don't want to get caught up in being too intense about holding on to even resolutions that need to come to pass to this time. If you're going to talk about something really stupid like the tattoo that you regret, I could think of worse things. Wear a garment to cover it up and don't do anything about it until next year when there's good astrology for surgery and or for laser treatments, okay? I'm talking about the stuff that really matters, where we might think that it is almost ridiculous to be focusing on a little boyfriend. Try being me. And my little first boyfriend who broke my heart, and we were together off and on for years and years. I have a hard time, I'm glad that he reached out to me at the time he did a few years ago, but it was one of those 6 of cups in reverse aspects that you have where I was like, oh Lord, I didn't want this to happen, and yet the best thing to do is to face my monster. I love him, God bless him, but no way. So you need to just think about this, that the more dangerous aspect of this 2 of Pentacles would be for you to get so caught up in even a lovely moment of hope and inspiration, which is more likely because of that 3 of Cups that we start off with. That's also going too far in one direction, which is fun, and you guys are all about fun. But then the opposite would be to then over-analyze the situation from the past that you're almost feeling good about making peace with, and saying, you know what, I could do this. I could do this even better than Rita said. I can do it now and today, and we're done. And that would almost be like negating the emotions that you have to experience as a result. And I'm not saying that you have to go and like pound sand and wail and cry out to your ancestors. You don't have to do it that way. Just remember that there is a medium here. There is a middle ground. There is a balance to it. So overall, for the end of this year, and I'll talk more about this in your January readings and in your predictions for the entire freaking year, we'll talk about this, but I think you can make excellent progress. I think that though there are some of you that Saturn will affect greatly, sometimes more than others, I'm already telling you that the best way to do it is to roll up your sleeves. I know you can do it anyway. I've seen you guys do it. I have at least 2 Sagittarius types that come to mind. One of them, hi Myrna. She knows how to roll up her sleeves and tackle anything, and even through adversity has created a beautiful, beautiful family that is enviable. When I see these pictures, I just, bubble up with joy and happiness. She's so deserving. She's a very, very lovely person and very special to me. And I have another friend who is more of an acquaintance, but she is also very good at saying, F it, and then she rolls up her sleeves and jumps in right there in the middle of the muck and the mud. She could have to jump into a ring with 200-300-pound lard hogs to separate them, and she'll say, if you all are scared, I'm going in. And this is actually partially true. So make sure that you just start off with a good attitude. I want you very, very happy, very, very happy when that, ball's gonna drop, which I don't even know if does the ball even drop anymore. Anyway, I don't know if West Coast knows when East Coast does. But just remember to be very, very happy at that moment that this comes across, because it really is a transcending experience when we're saying, here it goes, bye-bye 2015. I don't care if it starts off 2016 retrograde in Aquarius, goes back into Capricorn, comes back, does it again, and we're all rethinking anything. What's the worst that could happen, my dear? The tide comes in and you're wearing your best jeans and some shoes you can't wash or dry. God bless you, and I'll be talking to you soon.